Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's event, Women in Engineering, the Power of Networking. We're so excited to have you here this evening. I've got a few housekeeping announcements to make, and then we will get started. So just a heads up that during the event, we'll be doing a Kahoot later on after our panel. The best advice we have is to use your phone for Kahoot. If you have a phone there or an iPad, that's kind of an easier way to do it, but you can also go to kahoot.it on your computer. If you have questions this evening, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit the questions. We will be asking those out loud to our panelists during the moderated Q&A portion of the event. And then you can always email us at we@uwaterloo.ca with any specific or additional questions. So my name is Daniela Cross. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing and Recruitment for the Faculty of Engineering, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. This is a virtual safe space, and we are monitoring the chat and the Q&A, but we want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm going to kick us off with our territorial acknowledgement. The University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land promised to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work toward reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is centralized within our Indigenous Initiatives Office. I'd also encourage you to visit native-land.ca to learn more about the land that you occupy. Now, in honor of the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in Canada, we wanted to share some suggestions to honor this day. September 30th will be the first official National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And I personally attended an event last week that was run by the Woodland Cultural Centre in Brantford, Ontario. And I thought that they shared some great tips on things that we can personally do that are personal acts of reconciliation. So I've listed them out there, things like reading books that reflect on the residential school experience, volunteering, supporting and celebrating emerging Indigenous artists and musicians, watching films and documentaries, attending cultural events, listening to Indigenous podcasts, maybe creating a family or friends project around Indigenous history, exploring authentic Indigenous experiences, learning the history about residential schools in Canada, and being an ally. So just some tips for today. There's lots of other things that you can look into or look at online, but some thoughts from us. All right, so I would like to now introduce our panelists for this evening and our presenters. This evening, we're honored to have Mary Robinson, who is our Associate Dean of Equity, Diversity, and Outreach for the Faculty of Engineering. We also have Abby Tien. She is a biomedical engineering student, and she's a WiE committee member and the Mentorship Director. Maya Bishop isn't with us tonight, but she is one of the co-directors on the WiE committee for mentorship, and she's a computer engineering student. And then we have 2 wonderful alumni joining us this evening, Theresa Cooke, who's an alumnus of Systems Design Engineering, and Prashanth Madhi, and we'll be introducing them in just a little bit. Before we get started with our brief presentation, we do have a poll for you. So we're going to launch a quick poll. Where are you joining us from today? All right, it looks like a lot of you are from the Waterloo area, some from the GTA, a few outside of another place in Ontario, and then one person from another province. All right, I think we've got all of our responses in, so we can close that poll and show the results. Awesome, so majority of people from Waterloo, some from GTA, and then a few from outside the GTA and outside of Ontario. Excellent. All right, I would like to turn things over now to Mary Robinson, Associate Dean of Outreach, Equity, and Diversity.
Thanks, Daniela. It's great to be here with all of you. My name is Mary Robinson. I'm actually a graduate of chemical engineering here. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm happy to kick off this event. So onward to the next slide, Daniela, please. Okay, so Women in Engineering is a program that runs at the University of Waterloo and many other universities across Canada and across the world. So the Women in Engineering organization really focuses on two things, both to support and empower female engineers, so whether they're faculty, staff, researchers, other people supporting our work here, but also students. So you as future Waterloo Engineering students are an important part of our community. And of course, it's also looking at inspiring the next generation of women who might be interested in pursuing degrees in engineering. Okay, onward to the next one, please. So how do we go about fulfilling this mandate? Well, the first bit about how to inspire the next generation of women, some of you here tonight may have, who knows, before you were students, taken part in some of our outreach activities. So things like Girl Guide Badge Day, Go Eng Girl, Go Code Girl, perhaps the Catalyst Conference, or some other Engineering Science Quest type activity, because there are so many of them. Actually, some of you may have participated in Hive Mind as well. So a new program that has launched as a result of, well, COVID-19 and the effects of the pandemic. And of course, the second part of our mandate, really to support and empower women identifying engineers. We have all kinds of events that run on campus and also virtually. So you're part of the Women in Engineering Mentorship program, or we'll find out soon how many of you are. Great networking events like this one, and fun events. So whether it's yoga or movie nights, building ice cream sundaes, the We Welcome barbecue, whatever that is. So we really look at building that sense of community. Onward to the next, please. So the Women in Engineering community, I would say, is a really inclusive community. So basically anybody who identifies as a woman or is supportive of, identifies as a member of that community is welcome to join us. And we're always looking for new opportunities to grow and engage with the wider community as well. Great volunteer opportunities, whether it's with outreach programming or other activities within the Women in Engineering community. As we'll hear from Abby in just a little bit, there's no shortage of things to do and get involved with. And Women in Engineering is definitely a volunteer-run organization. So we meet monthly with a combination of undergraduate student reps, grad students as well, faculty, staff, alumni, and our engineering outreach team as well is well represented there. And we're always looking for new people to join us, to bring new ideas, to kick off new events, and to create new activities like this networking event here tonight. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak a bit about Women in Engineering. Over to you, Daniela.
Oh, thank you so much, Mary. And we are going to do another quick poll, just as Mary mentioned. So if we could launch that poll, the question is, are you currently a mentor or a mentee in the Women in Engineering Career Mentorship Program? And if you aren't, or if you don't know, that's totally fine. But we just thought it would be interesting to find out how many of you joining us this evening are part of that program. Are you able to launch that poll, Rachel? All right, I'm not seeing it come up on my side, so maybe we'll get to that one a little bit later. Maybe a little technical difficulty, but that's okay. All right, I would like to turn things over now to Abby Tien. As I mentioned, Abby is a 3B biomedical engineering student, and she is one of the co-directors from the WiE Student Committee, one of the mentorship program directors. And an interesting fact about Abby is that she's been trying to learn how to whistle for over a year, and she still can't do it. So Abby, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you. So a little bit about the Career Mentorship Program. The program was created to provide female engineers with extra support and guidance while entering the male-dominated industry, connecting female engineering students with industry leaders in hopes of gaining valuable knowledge, connections, confidence in the field. So for those of you that are a part of the program, we just want to welcome you if you've been a part of the program since it kicked off this January. As well, welcome to a couple of our new to the attendees from our new grad student mentorship program, which has been on about a pilot for the last 4 months. And as well, if any of you guys are new students, we just want to welcome you and join and ask if you're interested in joining our career mentorship program starting next January as well. And a little overview of the program in case you want a little bit of a refresher or you want to learn more about it. The mentorship program goals are to develop relationships between engineering professionals and women identifying engineering students, to create a sense of community for women identifying engineering students, to provide support to female engineering students and facilitate professional growth, contribute to development of important soft skills, and to bridge the gap between university and industry by sharing experiences. If any of you have any questions about this, feel free to message either Maya or myself, and we'll be happy to answer anything you have.
Thank you so much, Abby. We really appreciate you being here this evening. And as Abby mentioned, she'll be on. So if you do have any questions specific to the Women in Engineering Student Committee, I know Abby is happy to answer those as well. Okay, so now it is my distinct honor to introduce our panelists for this evening. So as I mentioned, we have Theresa Cooke, who has her systems design engineering degree, and she is the VP of Strategy and Business Development at Siemens Canada. And then Prashanth Madhi, who's a graduate of our computer engineering program. He's the Senior Technology Delivery Lead at TD Bank and an entrepreneurial coach at the University of Waterloo. So I'm going to get Theresa and Prashanth to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit more about their history, their careers, and really how networking has impacted them and their thoughts around professional networking. So we'll start off with Theresa.
Hi, everyone. So exciting to be with you. Just feels like yesterday that I was on campus, even though it's been a really long time, class of 2002. So I'm also so impressed hearing everything that I just heard about what's happening for women in engineering on campus. And I'm jealous. I can honestly say I'm jealous. When I was going to school, Mary was there at the same time as me, but I essentially remember our women's support kind of consisted of this one bathroom that had this extra room attached to it that had a couch in it. And it was kind of like the designated area to go cry. So that was kind of women in engineering when I went to school, and the mutual crying room. But so you have a lot more mechanisms and channels for support, and I'm really, really thrilled to see that. So so after I graduated from Waterloo, the economy crashed. I was programming for Cisco. I was going to have a high-tech career, and everything crashed, and I had no job offer. So I just decided to stay at Waterloo and finish. I did an extra few courses in psychology, and I kind of got a concurrent BA at the same time. And I asked my prof, I was taking a psychology course in pattern recognition. And I realized, oh, I'm doing pattern recognition in engineering. Maybe I could go work in a psychology lab in Europe and just do computer programming for them and just travel around while the economy comes back. And so my psychology prof gave me a few recommendations. I assumed they were people she knew. And I just wrote to them like, hi, Jen recommended. And anyway, dots connected, and I met a professor in Germany, and he invited me to, after we did some interviews and stuff, I ended up doing a master's and a PhD in his lab in Germany. So that was my neuroscience PhD, and did a lot of combination of machine learning and computer vision, and then with human psychophysics as well combined to that. So it's fascinating, and I'm happy to go in more detail at some point. But then I was so curious about business. And so I went into management consulting with Siemens and have been in a bunch of different countries doing that. And these days, I work a lot on electric charging, which I find really fascinating. Makes me regret not having done electrical engineering, but oh well, to pick it up on the side. And then just doing a bunch of other fun education things, and busy with 3 little kids at the same time. So happy to field any questions on those topics as well. I did want to share with you, though, 5 kind of networking ideas or principles, and we can go deeper in the Q&A. So my first principle number 1 is replace the word networking with the word helping in your mind. I think networking is really a result of an energy exchange between 2 people. And so really what's actually more important is the energy exchange. And the networking is just a result of that. Secondly, follow the golden rule, like treat others the way you would want to be treated. Because this energy exchange is not just about what you want to get from other people, but also what they might be getting from you, and also what you are giving to the next generation of people. So if a high school student is asking you for help, how are you responding? Or are you proactively making yourself available to other people who are younger than you or in a less privileged position than you at the same time as you are asking for help from others? Thirdly, be clear on your own value. And that's a journey that takes time, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy. For me, it was very unclear for many years, but I think it's really important to always be asking yourself, what is my value in this energy exchange? What's in it for the other person? And really trying to be as honest and clear as possible on that. Fourth principle is quality over quantity. I think it's useless to just say, oh, my network is measured by my number of LinkedIn contacts. Who can you actually call at 8 p.m. at night? Who are those quality relationships? Some of my mentors, I have them for life. Like, they are super important people in my life. So I think it's very important to focus on the quality. And finally, if you find networking to be some kind of like a fuzzy, thing, and it's just not it's like makes you awkward, uncomfortable, and but you do feel comfortable with, engineering and science and problem solving, then turn this into an engineering problem. So make networking an engineering problem. So figure out, what is the function you want to optimize? What are the algorithms you need to create? What behaviors are algorithms? And then run the code. Operationalize it, put it into your calendar, whatever you need to just execute and get that done and optimize that function. So that's it in a nutshell, and I'll turn it over to Prashanth.
Awesome. Thank you, Theresa. And those 5 tips are fantastic. And I know we'll talk about those more when we get into the Q&A. So Prashanth, over to you.
Thank you so much, Daniela. And that was a fantastic 5 set of rules that I heard from Theresa. That's fantastic. I'm looking forward to getting more about the questions later on. So hi, everybody. My name is Prashanth, and I am a computer engineering graduate from the University of Waterloo. Don't be alarmed by the number of logos that you see on there, because I will kind of walk through the process, because a career in engineering or anything related is more like it's a long-term journey. It's not like a quick sprint that you have to trying to get to the bottom of the line. So my co-op, when I was in University of Waterloo, I worked in a bunch of different places. So I worked at Apple, I worked at BlackBerry, I worked at Manulife, and I've tried a bunch of different things. So my career path is nowhere straightforward. So similar to Theresa, I also wanted to go into the consulting route. So I started off my career thinking that, I want to be able to travel, solve some interesting problems and things like that. So my career actually started off at Deloitte Consulting. So still focused on technology, but at the same time, I focused specifically on insurance technology and banking for some reason. And that's how I kind of ended up in my first role at TD. And coincidentally, the first role at TD Bank was actually through a networking opportunity, which I just responded on LinkedIn. So the power of networking is so important, because you'll never know who you're going to reach out to and how people are going to be interconnected. So for the folks that are wondering, Mary Robinson was actually my professor for Chem 101. So this is something, it's a connection that happened back in 2008, and we're reconnecting after so many years. And I've met a lot of people at the university, such as Professor Larry Smith, Gosha, and I'm meeting a lot of people for the first time as well. So this kind of shows you like an opportunity so small, like a LinkedIn post could actually end up in an opportunity to be working full-time at TD Bank. And while I was at TD Bank, I have moved a bunch of different levels. So I started off as a senior analyst, and then I moved into a project manager. Now I'm a senior technology delivery lead. I'm slowly trying to kind of grow up the corporate ladder chain. But one thing I do want to kind of emphasize is there are opportunities everywhere, right? So you'll see some of these other logos at the bottom. So Haribo, Bet99, Barovita. So these are things that kind of came up as a result of networking with different type of individuals. So I'm a kind of individual who's actually multi-passionate. So I do a lot of different things. So one of the things that I actually enjoy doing is marketing. So I've been involved in a lot of activities related to that in my free time. So like, evenings, weekends, things like that. And Barovita kind of came, the CEO of Barovita came and approached me while I was doing some of these activities, say, hey, I like your approach. You're someone that I could use for my team and things like that. And now I kind of do consulting for them part-time, is, helping them with, brand growth and marketing. This is literally street, like on the street networking, which doesn't really happen this much. And the thing is, I want to share that story because networking is so important at a very young age, because you guys are so lucky to be in a university like University of Waterloo, especially this mentorship program, and everything that I've heard so far is fantastic. And I'm also envying you guys for not having this when I was there, because this is so important. You guys have access to both mentors, mentees, the professional network. Right now, Theresa is a VP, I work at TD Bank. So there's a lot of individuals that are here that you can really relate to right after this event as well. So one thing, few things that I wanted to re-highlight what Theresa talked about is quality over quantity. That is so important because it doesn't matter how many connections you have on LinkedIn, Instagram, email, WhatsApp, TikTok, whatever it is, but it's the quality, right? Like how many people can you actually call up and say, hey, like I need your help with something. Hey, I need a conversation and things like that as well. So definitely, like Erica was posting, put your comments and questions in. So we'll happy to answer questions related to networking. And another thing that I wanted to highlight is really network with passion, right? So networking is definitely a two-way streak. It's not like, one-sided. There's definitely opportunities from the person you're reaching out to and vice versa as well. So don't think it's always just, one-sided. So I developed this little framework, next slide, please, little framework that I kind of call this related to project management. So in project management, there's an acronym called the RAID log. So RAID actually stands for risks, actions, issues, and decisions. So I've kind of taken that version of it. I kind of changed it up a little bit into, how you do networking and building your career. And the thing is, I touched on this a little briefly as well. Be patient when it comes to a career journey, right? So it's not a marathon. Sorry, it is a marathon and not a sprint. Acknowledge that failure is a form of learning. So we just there is always definitely failures in many times in my career, but you have to acknowledge that and recognize that I've learned something from that, right? So not every single position and those logos that you saw here, I was having a blast. There are certain areas I'm just like, I'm not feeling so good about it, but that's something, an opportunity for you to learn so much about it as well. And another thing that's super, super important is, never sacrifice your moral values and our ethics for work reasons, right? So especially when it comes to women in engineering, things like that. So there is a really strong support system for these kind of things. If you are facing anything that you're doing things that you're not supposed to do, you have the right to kind of stop and say, hey, this is not one thing I'm comfortable doing. You can say no to these things. So don't be afraid of speaking up to your leaders or anyone like that as well. And work for people that drive you to be a better professional, right? So if you are not so great pleasant managers and things like that, don't work for them. Work for people that kind of bring out the best in you and kind of help you move forward to the next steps of the career as well. So this is something that I kind of developed, and there's an office hour that I did with Gosha a few years ago. It's on YouTube as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me offline, and looking forward to the Q&A session as well. Thank you so much, Daniela. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Prashanth. That is awesome. I love that model there, the RAID model, and Haribo, the gummy company. Those are my favorite gummies. So that must have been a cool experience working there. Okay, so we are going to go into Q&A now. I did just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions about women in engineering, you can always email us at WiE@uwaterloo.ca, and do check out our website as well, uwaterloo.ca/women in engineering. There's lots of great info on there, and we're always adding more events and things like that. I'll also pop this slide up now, and I'll probably do that again at the end too. But we do have another special event coming up on October 6th. So the role of research and development in business and career paths for women identifying engineers in the tech industry. And that's presented by Sandvine. So there's a QR code there to register, or you can also check out our website, the Women in Engineering site. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to ask our panelists to please go ahead and turn on their cameras. We will launch right into Q&A, so feel free to type your questions into the bottom section. Erica is going to be managing those questions in the Q&A button, and I'll be asking our panelists the questions out loud. So we had a question that came in, and I will ask, I'll ask each of you to respond, and like feel free to kind of jump in and make it a collaborative discussion. So the first question is it appropriate to reach out to someone at a company in a sector you're interested in through LinkedIn to ask them if they'd be willing to talk to you about the company and their role? So you're not requesting like any active interest in a job, but just to learn about it. And maybe to take that a step further, how would you go about doing that if you do feel it's appropriate? So Theresa, maybe we could start off with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. I get a lot of those kinds of reach outs on LinkedIn. So I think people do it, and I don't think there's any, there's no harm in doing it. I think you have to just understand that it may or may not be successful. And I also don't think that's a problem. Like, there's no harm in trying. I don't think the worst, what's the worst that's going to happen? They don't reply. Like, I don't do that. Sometimes I don't reply just because whatever, I have 3 kids and 100 unread emails and I just don't get to it. So which I think is totally fine. So I don't see a problem in doing it. I think it comes back to your value proposition. If you have a more compelling value proposition, maybe I'll make time, because maybe, if you can see that I'm working, for example, if you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see that I'm working on charging, right? So if you have a specific interest in charging and you want to work for a company that's doing, EV charging, and you write that, then maybe now there's a value prop for me because I need talent for my business. So I think it's again, coming back to okay, you're asking for something, but what's in it for the other person? Is there anything you can offer to make it more attractive?
Awesome. Thanks, Theresa. Prashanth, do you have anything to add to that, or tips for our younger students perhaps as well?
Absolutely. But one thing you'll find is there's a lot of people that are actually just willing to have a quick 15-20 minute chat with you. So regardless if it leads somewhere or not, right? So there are individuals that share their Calendly or some sort of invite there too, right? So you can definitely reach out. So I personally am okay with that as well, because I'm not HR, so I can't actually hire people accordingly, but I can always kind of point them to a different direction, point them to other people and things like that. And there's definitely apps and things like that can kind of help you with this as well. So for sure, University of Waterloo, use those mentorship opportunities. There's also that 10,000 coffees, I believe, which is still run at university, and those kind of things, right? That's one way to get into the network. Trust me, the thing that I also preach about is your network is your net worth, because you'll never know. This conversation you have with somebody today may not be meaningful right now, but 5 years down the line, you might cross paths in hey, you know what? I'm in technology, I'm in food industry or something like that, and you'll just pick it up where you left off. And I guarantee you that people will remember these conversations. And to be honest, there's a lot of people that are willing to give their time and find those people, right? And like Theresa said, oftentimes people are busy, and if you do send a request, there's no big deal. If you don't get a response, don't lose hope, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I would definitely spread it out as much as you can. And you send a request to 20 people, you might get 5 people that accept and maybe 2 that actually respond. So that's actually not that bad, not bad statistics.
Yeah, I
awesome.
think just to add to that, your hit rate, your hit rate may be very low, but that might be okay. I mean, Who cares? In a way, who cares? But at the same time, when you're on the receiving end, I know when I'm just being copied some random line, right? So I think it's, yes, you can send out 1,000, but you know, and then that's no problem really, but then you have to, you know, I think you can improve that hit rate if you invest a little more in the approach. And the other thing is just like, it's just like sales, like essentially you're trying to close a deal, right? With your deal that you're trying to close is a conversation with the person. Yeah. So now, you know, a cold outreach on LinkedIn. Yeah, I can do that. I can try to sell Prashanth a charger. I can write to him and say, hey, Prashanth, I have a charger. Do you want it? Right. And he probably will not answer. But if I'm like, okay, I really want to sell my charger to Prashanth. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to try to find the friend that I know that knows Prashanth. Maybe I'm going to figure out, oh, Mary and I went to school. Okay, Mary, look, Mary, I really need to sell this charger to Prashanth because of X, Y, and Z. Get her on board. Now Mary writes to Prashanth like, hey, Theresa, I know you don't know Theresa, but I know her from whatever. Would you be okay? So now I'm going to use Mary's cred to get to talk to Prashanth. Okay, Mary's going to owe me something later, but now I got in. So, you know, it's like, you've got to think about what you're trying to achieve and how are the other ways, because if you get the intro to that target person, now you're in.
Yeah. That's actually a perfect example. So another thing that you could try is reach out to one of your connection, asking for an intro. And that works so much more better because, you know, that person has credibility. I've done that so many times. I would ask like, you know, change management lead, senior manager, like, hey, can you introduce me to somebody at RBC that's doing this type of work, right? And they're more than happy to, as long as there's some commonalities and that person trusts you, they'll definitely do that. And, you know, it's you build that connection, right? It's how you want to develop it. And another thing I want to say is what Theresa said is it's a sales pitch, right? So the only reason that I got a response from my TD manager, my first TD manager, was my initial opening was like, this is what I have to offer. This is what I can do for you. Would you be interested in a phone conversation? That's exactly what the approach that I did. And I don't know if this is like, you know, master sauce, but that's what you have to do. You have to tell what you have to offer and be very clear. What do you want from them, right? Like, do you just want to waste somebody's time, or do you want to get like meaningful content out? Just literally lay it out. People that are really busy like detailed messages. We love short, concise, but meaningful like conversations. Yeah.
Those are some great points. And I think it goes back to one of Theresa's 5 main points, the quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
It really does make a difference. Awesome. Okay, so along those same lines, we've had a question come in from someone who says they're painfully shy and they dislike talking, and they don't want to be inauthentic. So what are some ways that they could grow their network? You know, if it, you know, the thought of like having a phone call or a conversation, a video conversation is just not ideal for them, what would be some other ways that they could approach the networking, you know, a networking relationship? Prashanth, did you want to take that one first?
Sure. Believe it or not, going through high school and I think the first year of university, I was an introvert myself. But then it doesn't look like it right now, but I've changed a lot over the university days. But I would say, you know, don't feel shy. I know it's easy. It's not easy to kind of come outside and just, you know, talk to somebody. But the thing is, like, you know, professionals and folks understand that you are a student, and there's no such thing as, you know, a bad question, wrong question, or something like that. That we actually like the fact that you're taking initiative to kind of engage with us. So one thing that you can do, let's say, for example, a bigger group is something that you're not a fan of, right? Do one-on-one. Literally ask somebody, like, you know, let's say, for example, we finish this call and this anonymous person is interested in having a conversation with Theresa and I, just send us a note on LinkedIn saying that, hey, like, you know, I really wanted to ask you these questions. Can you make like, you know, 15, 20 minutes of your time? I'm sure like we'll make our time and kind of speak to students, right? Because we actually enjoy doing that. The other thing that I'd also say is, networking is more just like, you know, public speaking and art and things like that too. So find opportunities on campus, like, you know, Toastmasters, speaking events, public speaking. Public speaking is a really good course, by the way, SpeechCom 223, I believe it was. Take those kind of courses to really, you know, get yourself out of the comfort zone. I believe the engineering actually has like a speaking component, and there's some presentations and things like that as well. So I understand that I'm wondering if this person is first year, second year, which is completely normal. Like, don't feel bad that this is happening, and it happens over time, right? It's not going to happen overnight. And one of the things that, you know, I forgot to mention is I'm also a TV host. And people are wondering, like, how on earth did you end up doing something like that? Like, you know, I was used to be shy and talking to people. Now I'm talking to front of so many different people. That came just over time. And then it's all within, right? Like, having self-confidence and things like that really kind of open it up a little bit. I know I went on a tangent, but Theresa, like, do you have any advice on this one? Because this is a very good question as well.
Yeah, no, I loved your comments, Prashanth. There's something that's coming to me is just like it's just being, first of all, being very compassionate with oneself. I feel like there's maybe some judging in the question or like in the experience, and we have to start with, first of all, just being compassionate and asking ourselves, like, am I judging myself overly harshly and negatively? So first of all, just being with who we are. I think it's super important to be aware that we're not pushing part of ourselves away and that we are who we are. And then, okay, having done that, I think it's also important to say, what am I trying to achieve in my life? Like, what do I want, right? Like, what's important? And because when you come down to that point, like, are you trying to make life for those around you more beautiful? Do you believe your human life is precious? Do you want to help people who are suffering? Like, I don't know, right? But what is your thing? What's driving you? And then when you connect really truly with that, like a true level of connection with that, and you're really embodied in that place, then the next step becomes clear. Like, if you want to execute on that vision, you're going to have to talk, like, you're going to have to engage a few other people, right? So now if you're coming from that place, you'll know that you're like, okay, I got to stop these kids from suffering. Okay, I'm going to have to go talk to the head of an NGO. So I think and then your purpose will just force you to go through the discomfort, right? And like, I have discomfort. It's not about people, because I'm not shy. I'm extroverted fairly, but I'm, for example, very A-type. So I need everything to be macro. I drive to perfection and structure, and I overwhelm myself with like fucking, too much, right? So my journey is, I have to sit back and go, you're a perfectionist, and you're going to have to chill out, and you're going to have to let this whole situation just ride out if you want to get to your mission. But I'm just saying, everybody has their own thing. So it's kind of okay. Just be okay with who you are, but connect with the purpose, and then, go through the steps you have to do to meet your purpose.
That is fantastic. Oh, sorry, Prashanth.
I was just going to say, I can guarantee that, once the students like go through this program, that is going to be gone, because, the co-op program, engineering, all these kind of things. And, I know I'm preaching about the services, but there are, interview services. There are people that are help you with these kind of things. So I was just at the Larry Smith conversation before this. There's a lot of help on campus, folks. Like, just reach out and, get the help that you need. If it's written, communication, balancing your time, there's actually so much more. It's just a lot of students don't realize that, there are help. And that's what the mentors are for as well, too, right? Like, reach out to your leaders and, teachers, professors, anybody that you reach out to. But that's a really good response, Theresa, as well, too. So yeah, go ahead, back to Danielle. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And that is a great point, Prashanth, as well. There is so much help available on campus, and unique clubs to join, and workshops and things like that. And I guess a question that I had for the individual who asked the original question about being shy, what are your thoughts on someone reaching out to you on LinkedIn and being very specific just about the questions they may have? Would you be open maybe to, or an email or whatever, to just responding to some written questions versus having a conversation? I mean, if it really is something they're not comfortable with yet, is that something that you would recommend they maybe try doing? Just, 5 questions, 3 questions, something like that. Is that an approach that's worth taking if they're a bit nervous about having a verbal conversation? Theresa?
I'm fine with it. Like, I can't, for me, scheduling time is very challenging. So I think if it's an option, it could be explored. Why not? I think it's short, especially if you have 3 questions and it's pretty short, then your chance of getting a response from a busy person is higher. But yeah, why not?
Same here. I think it depends on the questions, right? So sometimes if people are asking very in-depth questions, I'd rather just get on the call with them for 5-10 minutes and just say, hey, let's talk on the phone instead. But if it's a quick question about, where do I find out something about this? What are your tips on this? It's easier for some of us to respond to an email rather than, trying to schedule some time, because, scheduling time is a little bit tricky because we've got our, day job and our personal life and God knows any of the other things that we have going on. So definitely written communication is good. So one thing I would suggest is, start off as a written communication. but definitely plan on having a phone conversation or video call much later, because you want to make that connection strong, right? So one thing I preach about is build meaningful connections. Don't just go around like, add followers. That's just the worst thing to do. When I actually see people with like 1 million followers on LinkedIn, I'm just like, I just roll my eyes. Like, there's no way that you're a meaningful conversation with that many. So keep in mind of that too. So hopefully that answered the questions from the anonymous folk and then yourself, Danielle. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, so in terms of the types of questions that students should be asking when they're networking with someone who has a lot of experience in the industry that they're interested in, what are some questions that you've maybe been asked in the past, or what would you recommend that they ask to make good use of the individual's time who they've reached out to you? Theresa, do you have any suggested questions that will really help maybe trigger a good conversation and a meaningful conversation, but that will help the student when they're looking to find out more about a certain industry?
Yeah, so Daniela, are we talking about networking within the context of searching for a job?
I think that's where the individual who asked that question was going with it. Typically at that stage, when you're students, you are looking for co-op roles or searching for a future job. So I think
it's important to define a little bit and be clear, because like networking has so many different connotations and so many different purposes at different stages of your life. So I think, but for the purposes of this, like we're talking about engineering undergrads who are wanting to find a job. Basically, that's the major target, right? And build a career. And so therefore create relationships with people who could give them that job or point them towards that job, right? But there's so many other, I'm just saying, there's so many other reasons for networking, or like ways that networking can evolve that might not be about a job per se. Right.
True.
Okay. Yeah. So now when we're coming to talking about building a network specifically for the purposes of a job, then I don't know. Right. Maybe you have to let Prashanth go first, because I'm thinking a lot of the problem with people who have a job is that they have a job. They might have had a job for a long time. They might actually have not have searched for a job for many, many years. So you have to be careful what you're really asking, right? Because these people actually might have no idea or no relevant ideas. So I'm going to let Prashanth answer while I think about what I might have in addition to say in addition.
Yeah, sure. I think oftentimes when I'm networking with other people, I usually kind of be very broad and say, tell us a bit about your journey, right? In the last couple of years or something, like, to be very generic so that, you can focus on the last 2 years, or maybe somebody will relate to the fact that, hey, you're a Waterloo student. Let me actually tell you a story from how I was a student at Waterloo or something like that, right? So I think it's, don't be shy. Like, end of the day, they're just humans. Like, they are an executive, they are somebody that is super senior, right? But you'll find that a lot of the people are a lot more approachable than you realize. So when you are looking, if you are looking for something very specific, right, then ask it right away. It's better you ask that question right away. Otherwise, we won't know. We won't know. Like, and there's so many times I've kept up with like my old vice presidents and folks like that. And I'll literally be like, person X, like, hey, I'm looking for this type of person for me to connect with for my next stage in career. And once I tell that person, and we'll have a good 5-10 minute conversation about that, I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. I never thought about reaching out to these things. So it's all networking, trying to connect to see which person I can kind of go to next. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Theresa might have thought of maybe something to add there. And I've got a follow-up as well from someone that might help clarify too. So Theresa, you go ahead and then I'll ask a follow-up.
Yeah, a couple of things I would ask is like, what advice do you have for me? Or what advice do you have for me on X? But just like, this is my profile. What advice do you have for me? I think that's, someone senior is going to have advice, is going to be able to give you thoughts. Another thing is, what do you see as my value prop? Or what do you see as my strengths and weaknesses? Because if you're looking for a job, you're essentially like a product in a competitive market, and you need to be selected, right? So you need to understand your value proposition, and you need to understand where it could be strengthened, either just by like reshaping your storyline or by substantively strengthening it with an actual, action or experience. So I think it's very important to ask. You can ask anybody, like, what is, it's not the holy grail, whatever they tell you, but it's a perspective that might be helpful and might inform you. And the third thing, I think, depending on, how senior the person is, just ask them, what do you see as my potential career arcs for me? Because like when I can look at a CV and I can say, okay, based on what I'm seeing here, I could see this track through our company, or this track through our company. And a person with experience can kind of give you a few foreshadowings of how your career progression may evolve in their experience.
Excellent. Okay. And we did have a follow-up or maybe a little bit of a spin on the question. And you asked earlier on, was this, a student who's looking for a job, or what was, the point of the networking? So this was very specific. This person is in their mid-career and they're looking, for new job opportunities. Would you say that LinkedIn is the best way for them to kind of broker new connections and send out resumes and hope for the best? Or somebody who's mid-career, is there another approach that they could maybe be taking, professional organizations or events or whatever, maybe some unique ideas that you might have for somebody who's at that stage of their career? Prashanth?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So 100% LinkedIn is the #1 professional networking for everybody, but LinkedIn's becoming overcrowded. So the few things that I've kind of realized in the last year or so because of COVID, so meetups are a great place. So if you're wondering about what meetups is, there's different types of meetups at different organizations. So I'm into the whole management side. So I'm interested in a lot of, technical program management type meetups in San Francisco. And coincidentally, they were people that interviewed me at one point, and we have that connection. There was another question about, how do you keep connections, right? So I met this person, but then I saw them post a status about a meetup, and I joined this thing, and I join them whenever I can. And the thing is, the other things that I would recommend is, I don't know if this still people do that, coffee shops. Like there's a lot of good conversations that happen at coffee shops, like literally Williams at the university. There's meaningful conversations. There's business folks that are having conversations. There's nothing wrong with kind of just not interrupt their conversation, but kind of figure out if you can kind of figure out their connections or something like that, and say, hey, I overheard you talk about wireless charging. I'm interested in this. Would you be okay if I connect with you on LinkedIn? And you kind of take that conversation further, right? So the best way that I would suggest is get into a personal connection with them, right? So LinkedIn is great, but have like an email, phone conversation or something like that, so that you can build on your communication and relationship much further as well too. So hopefully that helps. Theresa, yourself?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is a hygiene factor. I think you have to do it. You have to have a clean profile. You have to have a good picture. You have to whatever. And I'm sure Waterloo has a gajillion sessions you can go to on your LinkedIn, but you have to, and you should have it critiqued, right? And then you should have your Twitter feed being clean, and like anything that's publicly available has got to be clean, because the employers will look, like anyone will look at it. And no one wants to be associated with something that's not, that has risk. But then at the same time, that I don't think that will really move you forward. I think the things that really move you forward are human to human connections. So, like whatever you're interested in, I would look it up and find the local chapter and go start to meet the people there at the conference, or whatever, in a little course, or maybe an evening webinar on some, or like an evening meetup or something. I think that's where the maximum fastest path will happen.
Excellent, great advice. And I think we're all looking forward to when we can get back to those coffee chats and meetups. And I think it's slowly happening here in Waterloo anyway. And we'll see that opening up more and more, which is good news, I think, for everyone. Okay, so we had another question come in, and Theresa, you had mentioned earlier on about the energy exchange, and about, and Prashanth, you mentioned this too, like, what do you have to offer? Putting that right up so that there is some kind of equal exchange. You're asking for something, but you're giving something. As a student, students might not feel that they have much to offer. So when you were young students just starting out, what did you do to really make those meaningful connections, and what were you offering?
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And I was just thinking back, I was like, oh yeah, what did I write when I wrote to that, professor in Germany, like about, me? Well, how did I, and, on the flip side, there's a war for talent out there. And you guys are at Waterloo Engineering. So you have things to offer. You have raw talent, you have hard work ethic, you have state-of-the-art skills, technology skills. So that's already like a good starting point, right? So I don't think you have to go too much above that. Just stay focused on the basics. That's what you have to offer. Get to the point, right? And see what happens. So I think talent is, you are talent, and everyone needs talent. So I think we're already in a good position. And I had something more to say. Well, yeah, the energy exchange. I just want to also add that, yes, at this point in your life, you are in that age part of your life. Like when you were a baby, you couldn't offer anything to anyone. Well, you offered joy, right, to everyone around you, but you took a shitload of energy. Okay. Now you're in like a little stage or later stage of your life where you can legitimately offer a lot, and you still need a lot. You still need a lot of things from society, right? You're going to get a little older. And then in my like age, I should be like giving to all the generations and doing as much as I can. I still am like asking for advice from elders, right? But then when I become an elder, then hopefully, so we're in a cycle. I'm just saying the energy exchange is cross-generational as well. And so it's okay that you need a little bit more help. We all understand that. And when you get to be our age, you're also going to give back, and you need to know that and be okay with that, right? So I think it's kind of also, I just want to say the energy exchange is not just in this one moment, it's over the full life cycle of our lives.
Well said. I think when you are a University of Waterloo students, like, you will know that people know you. Just outside of this university, if you have that Waterloo brand on your resume, there's a reputation that's already there. So trust me when I say this, you have a lot to offer. But one thing that I would suggest is really build your brand while on campus, right? So you don't have to do all the things that we kind of do in the professional world, but if there are certain things like mentorship, right? If that is something that you're passionate about, kind of make that your brand. Like, I've been into mentorship since I was in my second year or third year or something, right? So people always kind of come to me, and then in my second year or third year, I built a website, just said, these are things that I have in common that I wanted to kind of showcase. And then during that time, there's a bunch of mentorship opportunities, but then at that time, it wasn't a huge focus. But now I'm really happy that, we're all kind of taking it forward. So find your niche as well too. Find what you're really good at and focus on it. So let's say, for example, it's engineering and you're a super hardcore software guy, right? Like, take that software into another level. Be that subject matter expert that anybody just wants you to talk about. And trust me, like, if people want to talk to subject matter expertise, and you can always move on to software, hardware, chemical, wireless, anything. But find that niche, find one thing that you're good at, get really good at it, and then you're trying to branch out a little bit more. And before you know it, you'll be like a generalist, not a specialist anyways as well. So just going in that direction. Yeah.
That is awesome. Thank you, Prashanth. And I think this one, I'll ask you to follow up, Prashanth, and Theresa, if you want to add anything as well. But what's the best way to keep your contacts, your connections, good quality, even after you've moved on for a job or you've shifted focus? And the specific examples, like a co-op supervisor. So how have you maintained those relationships in the past? And you mentioned like some really interesting, paths that you've taken and journeys that you've taken, but maintaining those relationships, what are some tips to do that?
I love this question because I believe it or not, I'm in touch with my very first supervisor that I had at University of Guelph when I was a summer student. So the best there's I think we have a question on this in the Kahoot as well too. So the best way to maintain a connection is be mindful and then keep that connection going. I'm not saying have a conversation with every month or every 2 months or something, right? So if you are trying to get something from them, so I'll give you a very clear example. So I was at a UTM event, and this person approached me, but she was really interested in TD. She really kept up and literally followed with me on a week-to-week basis when the interview was happening, day-to-day basis. I really helped out with her, and she got a job at TD Bank. But at the same time, I've also told her, hey, you know what, this is good. Let's keep in touch once in a while. And we leave it up to the counselee to kind of maintain that relationship, right? So if you are someone that's looking to keep that relationship, I would say the best quality is to make your conversations meaningful. So you can have a conversation today, but the important thing is, you take notes and you follow their journey. And then you have a conversation like maybe 6 months or 1 year from now. So I do that even for my old colleagues, right? So I kind of take a different approach when it comes to this. I like to be friends with them. So I actually, make an effort to kind of meet up with them. So I still go back to my high school. So I still keep in touch with them. I had my parents' anniversary, called up my high school teachers for a virtual Zoom call. That's just a personality that I have. I just like to build connections, and you never know, right? So that's what I talked about earlier as well, because you never know where these connections go. And trust me when I say this, expect the least when it comes to these things. You'll never know where you'll just stumble across a coffee shop, stumble across an event or something like that. It's exciting when I do that, these kind of things as well. So there's not a right or wrong formula for this. Just make sure that you take the time to have conversations at interval that works for both you and the supervisor or a colleague as well.
Excellent. And Theresa, do you have any final tips in that regard as well on maintaining the relationships with past employees or employers or supervisors? Any advice on that?
Yeah, I think for me, I used to kind of have this inventory and I wanted to kind of keep up with everybody, all my friends, all my contacts. But at a certain point, when you get to a certain age and you have a certain network and you have 3 kids, you have to just give it up. So you have to just decide like what's important, and I have my people that I remember their birthday or their wedding anniversary, or if I think about them, legitimately, if I really think about them, I just write them a note out of the blue. I'm like, hey, Doug, it's just remembering suddenly randomly that when I was at Cisco, and I just wanted to thank you for being like X, for doing X for me, right? So I'm more like, I go with the flow. I do know people who have like coded literally like Facebook, and boom, they send, it comes like, it's like a program thing. I don't know, because it's, for me, it's just too much, but that's an option. I think you have to go with your style. And for me, I like authenticity. And also I just have to be realistic of what I can actually manage. And I think you have to ask yourself, why? Are you doing it because you feel like you should, or because of some ego thing that you like want to have a large network, or are you doing it because like, I don't know, like, why are you doing it? I think that's a really important question to ask.
That is a really great point. Being authentic is so important, and having, the capacity to do that as well. So we've got a few minutes left, and we have a fun little Kahoot quiz to get into in just a moment. But before we do that, I really want to thank you so much, Theresa and Prashanth. I think you've shared so much valuable advice with our attendees this evening, both our mentors and mentees and our students and alumni who've joined us. And I just want to give you a chance to give any final tips or words of advice. You've shared so much tonight and so many great things, but is there anything you wanted to just leave our attendees with? And Prashanth, maybe we could start off with you.
Sure. I talked about this before. So when it comes to networking, network like you mean it. Always try to like learn, and don't give up on your passions, right? So when it comes to networking, my approach is to find your passion. Like, what are you really passionate about? Whether it's career, fun, something like that. So find out from that, and use this opportunity. Like, for example, we've got some great people that are on the panels. Connect with us offline and tell us about who you are, what you are, and I always accept requests as long as there's the conversation saying, hey, this is what I do, this is what I am. Like, I don't accept blank requests because I'm like, I don't know who you are. But just make sure you take the time to write us a personalized message. Say, hey, I was a student, I enjoy talking about XYZ, and then reach out to us, right? And we'll be happy to schedule time, respond questions, anything like that. So make every single connection meaningful. Make it lifelong, not just a one-time thing.
There's a beautiful book I like, which is called, it's Paulo Ruiz, The 5 Agreements. And one of the 5 agreements is don't take anything personally. And it goes a lot deeper than that. But I think in networking, it's just important to remember, it's not, if someone kind of doesn't answer or whatever, it's not rejecting you. It's like, it's them and their life and what they're doing. And they're doing the best they can. And you're doing the best you can. And your job is just to be an artist of your destiny. So I think network from that perspective of like, how do you make a beautiful purpose in your life? And don't worry about what other people, you know, how they act. It's not about you. It's just a compassionate behavior on their part.
That is fantastic advice. We are all doing the best that we can, and I think that's great words and messages to leave on. So thank you so much again for your time this evening. And please do connect with Theresa and Prashanth on LinkedIn, but make a message or write a personalized message. And we will do our quick little Kahoot quiz. So I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. Oh, never mind, we've got Erica up here. So you can join us at kahoot.it. You can just go to that from your phone or from your computer screen and then enter in the PIN 278573. You will need to enter your email address, because that way, if you win, we can contact you for a prize pack after the event. So we'll just give you a minute to get logged in if you are going to join us for the Kahoot. Promise it'll be super quick. I know we're a couple of minutes over time, but if you're able to join us, that would be awesome. And once again, that PIN is 278573. Give everyone one more second. And you can do it from your computer or your phone, whatever's easier. Just make sure you enter an email address so we can contact you afterwards. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Erica, do you want to launch our first Kahoot question? All right, question 1. How can you quantify your networking or your network strength? So, and how to answer in Kahoot, you just select the button that matches the color. So size of LinkedIn, Outlook contact list, who you can call at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m., or how much you've done for others. And I think you get bonus points for answering quickly as well. So we've got a fair amount of time to answer, but once everyone is answered, I think we'll be set to go on to the next one. Awesome. All right. Okay, and this is our leaderboard. So Zeno is in first place. There's still time. We've still got more questions. All right, what are the best ways to strengthen your network? So send a lot of LinkedIn requests, take a genuine interest in learning from and giving to another person, put yourself into challenging group situations with people you respect, or mass email your Outlook contact list.
Danielle, I feel bad. These are my questions, and I don't even know what I said was correct, because I felt like it was more of a philosophical discussion setup. So I apologize for screwing up the game.
I was actually wondering, there could be multiple answers.
I'm going to jump in as the Kahoot master and say, pick multiple answers for this one. So there are, I think for the remaining questions in the game, it's multiple choice or multiple select. So pick all that apply.
Your winner might be randomly selected.
All right. Yes, and you can pick more than one answer. So, all right, we should be good, I think, Erica. All right, S is in the lead now with 2,489. Next question. What is the networking or career framework Prashanth described during the Fireside chat today? And then you can pick all that apply for this one as well. So your career journey is a marathon, not a sprint. Recognize failure is a form of learning. Work for people that drive you to be a better professional, and never sacrifice your morals or ethics for a work reason. And once again, you can select more than one. Okay, I'm doing the Kahoot too, and it's saying slow and steady wins the race. Now it's being funny. Okay, we should be good with our answers, I think. All right, and that one, all were correct. So excellent. Okay, let's see who is in the lead. Oh, S, but Kate is close behind, and Zeno in third. It's a tight race. It's a tight race. There's still time. Okay, this is multi-select. So when networking, which of the following approaches would be best? Immediately follow up and ask questions discussed during the interaction. Wait until you need something meaningful, then follow up. Immediately follow up, offer your assistance to see how you can help them. Connect on LinkedIn, but don't get in touch. This one's a bit tough. Looks like our answers are coming in though. All right, I think we're good, Erica. Okay, and there was 2 correct answers. So immediately follow up, and that's very fast, all right. Oh, Zeno has gone ahead, and Daniel in second, S in third. All right. I think that we are at the final question. This one could be the deciding question. Multi-select, so more than one correct answer. Which of the following are the most significant when it comes to networking? Building meaningful relationships and growing your network, learning, enhancing your skills, and understanding industry trends, finding your true passion, and having as many connections as possible. Okay, I think we have all of our responses in. Yes. Awesome. So there were 3 correct answers there. All right, let's see. In third place, Nicole. Excellent, 9,008. Second place, Daniel, 9,277. And in first place, amazing. And runners up were Hannah and Kate. Well done to our 3 winners. We will be in touch with you and we'll send you out a little prize pack. So thank you all so much to everyone who participated tonight in that Kahoot and who participated this evening as well. And just thank you all once again for being here. It was so nice to have Theresa and Prashanth, to have Abby from our Women in Engineering Student Committee as well, and Mary, and then the rest of the team behind the scenes that was helping out. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate everyone's time this evening. I do see that we've shared in the chat a link to our upcoming Women in Engineering events, so please check those out. They are open to everyone. And then Prashanth, thanks for sharing your link to your website there. And we, once again, just want to thank you all so much for being here this evening. Feel free to email us with any questions or any follow-ups at we@uwaterloo.ca. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great evening. Take care.